Welcome everybody to your Week 8 Fantasy Football Recap presented by your Commissioner Scott Mills for the Mills and Friends League 2024. Alright, so I'm a little bit later getting this out today. I started a new full-time job last week and I've been getting up to speed on that, so these will probably be coming out a little bit later on Tuesdays going forward and later in the evening, around like 7 to 8 o'clock ish on Tuesdays. I'm guessing will be when I'm streaming these live, and then I'm still gonna try to post them out there on the YouTube and in the league chat as well, so you can continue to view these there. So week 8, let's get going and looking at these matchups. So let's start out with the highest scoring players matchup for the week. Congratulations to Lamb Chubb's Play Along. You are the high scoring team for the week with 153.6 points. It was not by much though. Shaq's squad also scored 150. But we're going to go ahead and take a look here at this one first. With Lamb Chubb's Play Along getting 153 over Wolves Warriors 115. So, we've got quarterbacks both did pretty well. Baker continued being pretty good, even without his two best wide receivers on the team. So, you like seeing that Baker's still putting up good fantasy numbers, even if Tampa Bay, the team, actually isn't winning. But you don't really care about that for fantasy purposes. He's getting quite a few points. And Lamar had a pretty good Lamar Jackson game, despite Baltimore losing to the Browns, which I'm pretty happy about, because I don't really like Baltimore Ravens as a team. But Lamar Jackson's pretty good at fantasy, so there's that. Alright, and then, so with 153 points, most of these players, I'm assuming, did pretty well for Lamb Chubb's Play Along. And now, he is reaping the benefits of that trade that he made earlier in the year, getting Jonathan Taylor. So, that's definitely starting to look pretty good with the 18 there with him. Over here for Wolves Warriors, not a terrible game, 115 points. It's just, when your opponent's going off for as much as they did, there's usually not much you can do. Mari Cooper in Buffalo, he's still getting acclimated to the system there, so he just wasn't that involved. So definitely not good, only getting 0.8 points there. Brian Robinson was a little bit lower because he didn't get a touchdown. Just modest performances from a lot of these players here. The kicker did alright for Wolves Warriors, but that's not enough. Not a ton more. Cade Otton on the bench for Lamb Chubb's Play Along with 24 points. Well, now that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are out, this is a pretty good stack with Baker Mayfield potentially going forward with this Otton getting 24 points off of the bench. So definitely things are looking up for Lamb Chubb's Play Along, even though they're only 4-4 on the year. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at our second matchup. We've got Shaq Squad versus Team ME. And we've got Shaq Squad winning 151 to 123. I believe this is the third loss in a row now for Team ME after their team started 5-0 on the year, so 123 is not a terrible score. It's just, again, it's the fact of you're facing somebody who had a really high score, and so That's just tough to beat. Quarterback-wise, Team Emmy wins with Jaden Daniels returning and getting an extra, like, probably 10 points on a game-winning Hail Mary throw. So that was interesting there. It was not the difference in this matchup, though, because the game, it was already over. Um, but yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs had a big game. Pretty much everybody for the Lions was pretty good. Um, Kyron Williams over here is pretty good with a 20-point game. There you go. So James Cook for Buffalo had a 26 point for as a running back. He's just in the flex spot there for Shaq squad. So definitely some big stuff happening there. Yeah, not a whole lot more to see. George Kittle with 21 for Emmy's team in the tight end spot. But yeah, I mean, it's just a solid performance for most of the players here on Shaq's team. I mean, Najee Harris, that's not a 20-point performance, but, 14, when everybody's getting 14, uh, you're going to have a pretty high score. And then there's a 13. Then George Pickens was like his lowest score, so with 9. And then you had the kicker with 8. So everybody else was up over 10 points, which is how you're going to get that big score. So yeah, that's so Jameis Winston was a big pickup for the Shaq's team, since he put up pretty good numbers for the Browns this week. Threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, something that Deshaun Watson was not able to even throw for 200 yards, I don't think, in any of the games. So definitely a big difference there. DK Metcalf being hurt over here for Emmy's team is definitely a blow there. I wasn't aware of that injury. I'm not sure how long he's supposed to be out for. It looks like it's just a knee issue, and it looks like he might be back for week 9. So definitely they're hoping that things improve there. But yeah, compared to last week where there were like 5 teams that had under 100 points, we had only 2 teams under 100 points scoring, and we also had 2 teams over 150 points. So definitely, on average, a higher scoring week this week for sure. Let's see here. What was the next highest score? 130 from Return of the King over Team Udina, who has been on a bit of a losing streak lately. So Return of the King getting a big win here. Both of these teams really needed a win to be able to be in the playoff race in this league. Return of the King is the one that came out. Although it was a pretty close match. I mean, both teams scored pretty well. Jalen Hurts was the big factor in here compared to C.J. Stroud, only getting 11. Yeah, and Hurts getting 35 is such a big number. And Bijan Robinson continuing to be pretty good in Atlanta. Another 20-point performance there. And then you've got Devon Achane with the Dolphins. All the Dolphins players are back to being decent again. Miami, the team lost, but Achane, it's crazy how the quarterback makes such a difference in terms of running backs. I mean, wide receivers, yeah, the quarterbacks throw into wide receivers, but even the running game, because if the quarterback can't throw to the receivers and make everything a threat, then the teams can just pile on the line of scrimmage and then they stop the running game too. So this is definitely encouraging for anybody who has Dolphins players. The fact that A-Chain did really well, but really any of them, like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as well, and even Mostert, Raheem Mostert, who's the other running back for Miami. So we had also for Return of the King, Kamara had a decent game. Justin Jefferson was decent, but no touchdown, which really would have been nice if Justin Jefferson could have gotten a touchdown. But he still got 100 yards receiving and 8 catches, so it's still a decent game there. Then we've got Trey McBride with a pretty nice game. The tight ends starting to score a little bit more, some of them are. So Trey McBride had a nice game. Evan Engram over 10 points, so you like seeing that out of your tight ends. Jordan Mason, the running back for the 49ers, I think his shoulders still must be bothering him a little bit. Only 6 carries in this one, or 18 yards. So definitely starting to slow down after that really great start from him. I don't know if teams are just starting to figure him out, or if it's just a strategy thing because some of the 49ers receivers have been hurt, so now they're like stacking the line of scrimmage and just focusing on stopping the running game. It's probably a little bit of everything there that's contributing to why Jordan Mason had a bad game. And so, other than that, like Neighbors is alright. Austin Seibert, the kicker, was pretty good. Detroit's defense with 19 points, but it wasn't enough. Now, here's where the big issue was with Team Medina. Kirk Cousins had 27 compared to CJ Stroud's 11. It's definitely just this one swap right there in terms of who you start or not. I mean, the projections had them pretty similar, about 1 point apart, where the projection was CJ Stroud would score about 1 more point than what Kirk Cousins did. Kirk Cousins playing Tampa Bay. CJ Stroud against the Colts. I mean, they're both pretty comparable there. Made the choice to go with Stroud, and I mean, it's a tough choice, you never know there. I certainly can't say I would have chosen differently. I mean, you always look back in hindsight like, wow, why didn't I pick Kirk Cousins? Why didn't I play Kirk Cousins? He's been playing pretty good lately. And let's see here. So let's see here. Yeah, when last week he had 8 points. So it's like, no, I'm not going to start him. He hadn't really been hot. It's just kind of happened against Tampa Bay. So unfortunate there for Team Medina. That's what ended up happening. That could have been the difference in the game. But that's what it is. So let's move on to our next matchup. We're going to look at Eggball Elite defeating No McCaff Attack. No McCaff Attack really struggling in this one, and Eggball Elite really needed a win. So now both of them are 500 in the league. And in the standings, we can see now Eggball Elite has now climbed above No McCaff Attack in total points by 17 to nab that 6th spot, which the top 6 spots are who ends up making the playoffs after week 14. So there's still 6 weeks left in the season, but right now you can see that this is a pretty tight race here with 3 teams at 4-4, with only 2 of them can get in those playoff spots right now. And then you've got Return of the King, who won, and Shack Squad, and Wolf's Warriors, all at 3-5, just 1 game back. And you look at the points for. Oh, I was looking points against here is 17 points higher. I'm sorry. So it goes by points for in terms of the tiebreakers. So actually, Eggball Elite has it's like over 70 points actually on No McCaff Attack. So they're pretty solidly, very in the lead in that regard. But you can see here, Return of the King, if they are continue winning and they're able to being a tiebreaker, they're going to end up beating Egg Ball Elite and moving ahead of them, and even Lamb Chub's Play Along. So definitely, there's still a lot of teams. You can see all these 3 and 5 teams really have over 900 points for, which are above at least 2 of these 4 and 4 teams. So that's interesting. And even me my team has one of the lowest points scored for, but yet I'm 5 and 3. Because I had a couple of weeks where I just scored way under 100 points, and it was kind of outliers. And then I've had teams that have scored like 180 on me, so that's why there's such a big discrepancy here. And like, how is it that I have almost 100 more points against, but I'm 5 and 3? That's kind of how that has happened there. Okay, back to the matchups. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Egg Ball Elite matchup. So, let's take a look and see what happened here. Josh Allen did a little better than Joe Burrow fantasy-wise. And then we've got the running backs were kind of meh. This was a huge issue right here. Antonio Gibson, minus 0.3. We've been seeing it over and over. I've been talking about it where, you just start a guy, you're hoping to get 5 to 10 points at least out of him, and then you just get nothing. And in this case, it's negative points because of a fumble. Basically, yep. And other than that, he only had 7 yards on 5 carries, which is really, really bad. And then Jordan Addison with almost nothing, too. So, yeah, you can really see why these scores are so low for no McCaff attack. His players just didn't do very well. Jayden Reed, who was at the start of the year, he seemed like he was going to be the number 1 receiver for Green Bay. It seems like he's now taken a step back. Like Romeo Doubs has come back and been decent for Green Bay. I know Dontavian Wicks seems like he's starting to be pretty good for Green Bay, I think. But yeah, Jayden Reed not doing as much. I know Josh Jacobs has been really good in the running game for Green Bay too. So that's if you're no McCaff attack, you don't like seeing that. But other than that, Devontae Smith was pretty good. Chris Olave had a bit of a bounce back game. No touchdown, but he had 100 yards receiving, which is still pretty good. And then not much in terms of the defenses. They were pretty even there. Ramondre Stevenson is still, he can have big games for the Patriots. Sometimes he'll put up a clunker, but then sometimes he puts up a really nice game. So overall, I think he's been pretty good. Ramondre has. But yeah, tight ends didn't really do anything. Receiver is pretty good. Running back was really good here with Tracy again for the Giants. He's kind of establishing himself as being a pretty good running back fantasy-wise. So that's been really nice for Egg Ball Elite. And Breece Hall really didn't do much of anything. He fumbled, which is never a good sign when you see your running backs fumble, because then you also kind of worry, oh, is this guy going to lose playing time? Is he going to get on the coach's bad side? And then obviously you get less carries, and then that leads to less production, which means less fantasy points, and then you're not able to play him. So I don't think that's necessarily we're there with Breece Hall, but it's just a thing. Whenever you see fumbles, it can be kind of scary like that. So let's go on. I think we've got 2 more matchups to see. Yeah, we did this one. We did this one. We've done Egg Ball Elite. We did this one. Okay, yeah. So we want to do the top 2. So we're up to me now. I was trying to do them by highest to lowest score in terms of who won the matchups. So we've got Walker-Off win, which is my team, ending up taking the win over Team Mills Cards. So I had a really nice week with 125 points scored. I'm very happy I was not facing one of the 130 or 150 point score teams this week. So I was able to get the win. And yeah, I didn't make the correct choice at quarterback. I ended up picking up Russell Wilson because both Anthony Richardson and Aaron Rodgers haven't been great, and Russell Wilson had a really good game last week for the Steelers. So I decided to start him. And, Pittsburgh, they just didn't do a ton of passing in this one because they had kind of beaten the Giants. There is also, I think, like a punt return for a touchdown that Pittsburgh did. And I know I got a notification on my phone one of the times it said Russell Wilson threw a touchdown to George Pickens for like 26 yards for a touchdown. And then I looked later and it's like, oh, that was actually called back when it was reviewed and George Pickens was out of bounds. So I was kind of upset about that because I got a notification that said I got an extra touchdown out of him and it didn't actually happen. So, but nobody really cares about that except for me. But I thought I'd share it anyway. All right. Josh Jacobs over here had a really nice game, like I was saying, for Green Bay. But yeah, over here I had Swift had a nice game. Kenneth Walker did not have a great game. But I was definitely very happy because now this definitely was a huge help. My trade for Marvin Harrison doesn't look like a complete bust now that he got 20 points and helped me to win this week. So I definitely was very happy to see Marvin Harrison having a big game, personally. A.J. Brown is all right. Tucker Kraft had a nice game. So both of the tight ends were pretty good. Tyreek Hill for Mills Card's team. It's better than what it's been the last few weeks, but it's still not great. There was no touchdown, but at least he got the 10 points. He got 70 yards receiving. He's doing better than he was with Tyler Huntley, I think, was who was filling in for Tua, and he just wasn't getting the ball to anybody well. So definitely, like I was saying, Dolphins players, teams that have them, I think the Dolphins players will start doing better here in the following weeks. But yeah, that's about all there was to this one. Off the bench, Aaron Rodgers did a little better than Russell Wilson, but really none of my quarterbacks did that good. I got 3 of them, and none of them were all that good, so that's a little weird. But I did pick up Cedric Tillman, and he had a big game, but I didn't start him. But yeah, that's 2 pretty good games in a row for Cedric Tillman, so that'll definitely be interesting there. So that's about all I had to say there for this matchup. So we'll go on to the last matchup, which was really two of the lowest scoring teams, and we have a big thing. This team, so he was. Are you awake or something like that? I forget exactly what it was, what his team name was before, but he changed it to Phoebe's Warriors. So I believe his dog's name is Phoebe, so that's where that's coming from. But he was 7-0 going into this matchup, so first loss for Phoebe's Warriors, and going up against Spooky Season, who's been definitely very good, and now only 1 game back. And points wise, Spooky Season is running away with it in terms of total points scored. So if he's able to catch Phoebe's Warriors team, he will definitely end up taking that number 1 seed once the playoffs start, if he's able to catch them in terms of win-loss record. So that was definitely a huge win for the Spooky Season team this week. We got Kyler Murray did really well. Definitely a bold choice going for Tua Tagovailoa in his first game back after his concussion and switching to Tua. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Definitely worked out. Did not work out starting Tua over his other options, as we'll see when we look at the benches. Derrick Henry, compared to some of his other fantasy performances, was pretty modest. Only scoring 14 fantasy points. And then we look here. These guys are all over 10 points, but nothing like too spectacular here. Deebo Samuel with 10 there. The questionable designation. He was coming back from his illness. I heard it was like pneumonia or something. So it seems like he's better from it, but yeah, I don't know everything. The 49ers are weird about their injuries and announcing them, as we've seen with McCaffrey and Debo's. Like last week, nobody even knew that he was sick, and then all of a sudden, he's getting everybody zero because he's not playing, and nobody was able to switch him out. Kareem Hunt again, a decent performance over here for the spooky season. Minnesota's defense did not do spooky season any favors, where Pittsburgh's defense almost got a. Well, yeah, I guess they would have still needed 10 more points. They would have needed at least another touchdown and probably a few more sacks and maybe another interception or so. And then maybe would have had a shot at winning this. But yeah, he was still 10 points away from winning the game. We do see Geno Smith was not better than Tua, but Matthew Stafford 100% was. And Matthew Stafford actually had Puka Nacua back. So he has both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. He's got all of his weapons back. Stafford did. And we could see this with, the fact that he has really big fantasy numbers this week. Now this definitely would have got him the win, where played Matthew Stafford over Tua, as we saw with the Team Ladina, who lost as well. They just swapped out quarterbacks. It would have been completely different, but it's always easy to go back and say in hindsight, I should have started this person. Where it's like, you never know beforehand. But there's a lot of out players here for the Phoebe's Warriors team. So definitely, if these guys can get healthy, like T. Higgins had been pretty good, and then he was out this week, so you're definitely hoping to see him come back and do better. And then Deontay Johnson, Travis Etienne, yeah. So best availability is availability, and when you're out, that's 0 points. As good as that. So definitely tough keeping them on the bench, but they're decent players when they are playing usually. So that's that. So that's your weekend review for week 8. So I'll be back again next week for more talking. Thank you for anybody who tunes in and watches these. And I will catch you next week. So have a good one.